Atlanta was alive and moving like it always did on a Monday morning. The streets were filled with rhythmic chaos. Honking horns, muffled conversations, the shrill sound of an emergency siren in the distance, and the frustrated sighs of caffeine-deprived commuters. The usual urban symphony played out across the city. The air hung thick with the scent of fresh coffee, greasy breakfast wraps, and exhaust fumes, an intoxicating blend of routine and disarray. To anyone else, it was just another day, another grind. But for Jasmine Carter, there was no time for routine. Her mind was focused, razor-sharp, zeroed in on one thing. She had a purpose. The world around her, chaotic and full of distractions, didn't matter. Jasmine stepped out of her sleek black sedan with poise, heels clicking with a certainty that radiated from her every movement. There was no hesitation, no doubt. She was a woman on a mission, and the world would soon know it. As she approached the Thompson Federal Courthouse, it loomed ahead of her, a gray, imposing structure, proud in its monument to justice. But Jasmine knew better. Justice didn't live in buildings like this. It only visited, usually in handcuffs, and when it did, it had a tendency to walk out again with a heavy heart and an empty wallet. She adjusted the strap of her leather briefcase, gripping the weighty documents inside. The papers held information that could shift the entire course of a federal case, documents that could destroy careers, expose secrets, and topple powerful men who would kill to keep them buried. In her other hand, she carried a simple folder, but its contents, worth more than the lives of the men about to test her patience. She was 5 steps from the courthouse entrance when it happened. "Hey, hands up!" Jasmine froze. The voice behind her was sharp, commanding, like the kind that came with a badge and the belief that it never needed to explain itself. Jasmine turned slowly, her pulse steady, her expression unreadable. 2 officers stood behind her, their hands hovering over their holsters like instinct had trained them to be ready for anything. Sergeant Rick Daly and Officer Connor Brooks. She didn't need name tags to know what kind of men they were. Different faces, same playbook. She had seen their type before. Daly stepped forward, chest puffed just enough to make sure she noticed the badge pinned to it, like it meant something. "Ma'am, put the bag down and step back," he ordered in a calm but condescending voice. Jasmine tilted her head, an amused glint flickering in her dark eyes. This was about to get interesting. "Excuse me," she asked, her voice smooth but sharp. "What's the issue here?" Brooks' gaze flickered to her briefcase, his eyes widening slightly, as if he expected it to explode at any moment. Of course, a black woman, in a suit, carrying documents. She was clearly a national security threat. "You match the description of a suspect involved in fraudulent government activity," Daly said, his words like lead, each syllable heavy with accusation. Jasmine let the words hang in the air for a beat. Absurd, incomprehensible, and then she let out a slow, humorless laugh. "Let me guess," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Black woman, nice suit, carrying important-looking papers. Yeah, that sounds real dangerous these days." Daly's jaw twitched, but he didn't say anything. He wasn't used to being questioned. "Just cooperate, ma'am," he said again, his tone now flat and demanding. "It'll be easier for you." Jasmine glanced toward the courthouse doors just steps away, a hearing she was about to lead. But instead, she was stuck here, treated like a criminal for simply existing in the wrong skin. "I don't have time for this," she said evenly. "I work here." Daly didn't flinch. No follow-up questions. His eyes remained cold, dismissive. To men like him, black people explaining themselves never truly mattered. Then, with a practiced movement, the cuffs came out. Jasmine didn't flinch. She didn't resist. She simply lifted her hands, palms open, allowing them to cuff her. Her mind wasn't on the cuffs or the men. She wasn't just playing their game. She was about to flip the entire board over. Sitting in a cold, dimly lit holding cell, Jasmine remained poised, her back straight, hands folded neatly in her lap, like she was sitting at a boardroom table, not behind bars. The room was oppressive with the stench of cheap bleach and lingering sweat, the walls a constant reminder of injustice. But Jasmine wasn't waiting. She was listening. She was always listening. Just outside the cell, Daly and Brooks spoke in hushed tones, assuming she couldn't hear them. "She has the files," Brooks muttered under his breath. "Amateur." Daly's voice was low, but carried an air of satisfaction. "We just say she tried to pass them off as real clearance files. It's a solid story." Jasmine's fingers tightened around her knee. "So, that was the play. They weren't just arresting her, they were framing her. The charge would be forgery and impersonating a federal officer." The irony almost made her smile. Jasmine closed her eyes, not out of fear, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. She was tired of the same old script, the same recycled lies. Most of all, she was tired of men like Daly thinking they could get away with it. "She's a nobody," Daly said with a dismissive chuckle. "The judge will believe us. They always do." "Nobody." Jasmine's lips curled into a slow smile. They had no idea who they were dealing with. She let them talk, let them dig their hole deeper. Then, with a crash, the door to the holding area slammed open. Boom! A sound that shook the walls like thunder before a storm. Marcus Bell strode in, tall, broad-shouldered, his suit so sharp it could cut glass. His reputation preceded him, the defense attorney, the kind of lawyer whose name made even the toughest prosecutors break a sweat. He didn't walk into rooms. He owned them, and right now, this precinct belonged to him. "She's coming with me," Marcus said, his voice a low, unshakable command. Daly tensed. "She's facing serious charges." Marcus didn't even blink, with the confidence of a man who knew he had already won. He slid a thick file onto the desk. The sound of it hitting would make the air grow still. Daly frowned, flipping it open, his fingers shaking as he read the first page. "What's this?" Marcus leaned in, his voice soft but deadly. "Just a little something from the Department of Justice." Daly's face drained of color as he continued to read. He knew what this was. "It turns out Miss Carter isn't just some civilian," Marcus continued, his smirk growing wider. "She's a consultant on federal security clearance cases." Silence fell over the room. Brooks shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting between Daly and the documents. "That doesn't mean she didn't," Brooks tried to say, but Marcus raised a finger, his gaze turning to ice. "Shut up, Brooks," Marcus said, cutting him off with a single command. "And that fraudulent document you claim she had?" Marcus continued with a smug grin. "It was actually for today's federal court hearing." Daly's jaw dropped. He looked at the paper, then back at Marcus. He could feel the blood drain for his face. Brooks swallowed hard. "She didn't tell us." Jasmine finally spoke, her voice calm, controlled, and brimming with deadly precision. "Oh, I didn't? Must have slipped my mind," she said, her eyes locked onto Daly's. "You know, since I was thrown in cuffs before I could even open my mouth." Daly's face hardened, but he didn't respond. Brooks, however, couldn't meet her eyes. "We were just doing our job," Daly muttered, as if that would fix everything. Jasmine studied him, the cool gaze of scientists examining a failed experiment. "Oh, you think this is over?" she asked, her voice a quiet whisper of menace. And for the first time, both Daly and Brooks felt it, a creeping, suffocating realization. They had just made the worst mistake of their lives. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered among themselves, eager for the spectacle. Daly and Brooks sat rigid in their seats, their faces frozen in practiced neutrality, hiding their panic beneath layers of professional detachment. They had no idea what was coming. Then, the door swung open with a sharp creak. Jasmine Carter walked in, no cuffs, no fear, just power. Her heels clicked against the floor with a rhythmic precision, like a drumbeat marking the cadence of their downfall. She strode past them without a second glance, her presence commanding attention. The judge leaned forward, his brow furrowing in curiosity. "Miss Carter, I understand you have something to present before the court?" Jasmine exhaled slowly, her gaze unwavering from Daly and Brooks. She reached into her blazer pocket with deliberate calm. Daly flinched, his eyes narrowing. Brooks stiffened, his face pale. And in one swift motion, Jasmine pulled out her CIA clearance badge. The room exploded. The silence that had reigned was shattered, the air thick with the sound of careers crumbling, whispers of disbelief. Jasmine stood still, her expression a mix of triumph and quiet satisfaction. "You played the wrong game with the wrong woman," she said, her words clear and final.